thesis about the Burmese punk scene. So I guess my first question is, what drew you to Burmese punk and what inspired you to write about it?
Well, I'm half Burmese myself, and my degree was in social anthropology and Southeast Asian studies. My focus has always been on Burma, and I feel like what in the West we tend to know about Burma is very much about the fight for democracy and social issues, whereas you hear very little about subcultures in Burma. So that's kind of what drew my interest in the punk subculture in Burma. I think I found out about it by the trailer of this documentary, and then I kind of got more involved and started researching more. And I feel like in terms of subculture in Southeast Asia, especially the punk subculture, the Indonesian one has quite a big exposure, whereas the Burmese one has always been quite unknown. So that's why I kind of wanted to.
And so it took punk a long time to come to Burma, didn't it? I mean, it was 20 years after the original thing during the 70s. And what sparked that, in the 90s? I mean, was there a particular thing that suddenly there was an awareness of punk?
So it was through, I believe, sailors that punk was kind of introduced in Burma. So through CDs and punk clothes arriving in Burma through sailors in the 90s. And the guy that you see in the documentary that has the shop, he's kind of like the first punk in Burma. So it was through him that it was kind of introduced. And I think what kind of gained the interest of punk in Burma was the heavy climate of censorship that Burma has, Burmese culture has always had. And so punk was kind of a way to, divert from the censorship. So it was, a non-mainstream way of doing music and being political to, fight against the censorship.
So, I mean, some of the bands, obviously, they play gigs. We saw them recording. I mean, did they release things commercially? Is it very much a DIY punk ethos, or are there sort of record labels?
So it is. It is mostly DIY punk. So it's still, it's not produced by kind of the media, the Burmese media. Censorship is still a major issue in Burma. So any topic that has to do with democracy or against religion and stuff like that can't be kind of produced. There is a couple of bands that are starting to become more kind of like commercial, and they still self-censor their lyrics to be released. But it is there is this band called No U-Turn, who in their latest music video they kind of smash a TV and say something against all the media's corrupt, something like that, which is something that 10 years ago could have never happened in Burma. So it is slowly censorship is fighting down a bit.
And what kind of bands? I mean, I guess it was a mix of English punk and American punk, and I saw there was a Misfits badge, but were there any other particular bands that the sailors that brought music over that were particularly popular and inspired some of the Burmese punk?
I think nothing in particular. I think like British and American punk bands, both of them. And I guess in the most recent years, I think Indonesian punk has had a bit of an influence on Burmese punk. The fact that this subculture was kind of growing closer to the country definitely influenced the spread of Burmese punk in the last few years.
And so, Chacho, who's the main protagonist in the film, I think it's a really unique take that he, takes something like Buddhism and applies some of the, the teachings of philosophy to punk. I mean, in your research, what was your arguments in the thesis? Did you sort of try and find links using Buddhism, or was it mainly just about the scene?
So I think Buddhism definitely plays a major role in the punk scene as well. If you think of Rebel Riot, the band, they were kind of born in the Saffron Revolution, which is the revolution which was initiated by monks in 2007. So also just that fact shows how it is deeply connected, and it is it's quite interesting seeing how the Buddhism he applies is quite an authentic Buddhism in a way. I feel there's very little knowledge of fundamentalism in Buddhism, which is a major struggle in Burma, but it's something that you never hear about. And the fact that he rejects it and while still maintaining his beliefs in Buddhism is was definitely a big part of the scene.
I'm going to throw it out to the floor now, so if anybody has a question. The woman there with the glasses?
Yeah, Naomi. How did you get to know them? How did you find out about them?
Um,
Because all over Burma, people don't know about them.
yeah.
So,
Well, there is, I feel like now the internet in Burma is opening up a bit, especially Facebook. Pretty much the internet in Burma is just like Facebook, so a lot of the bands do have like a Facebook page that they own. So
They
how, yeah, like quite a few of the major ones do have like a Facebook page, so that's kind of how I got involved. So just like messaging them their Facebook page, and most of them replied. And then through kind of there is like 2 documentaries now about punks in Burma. So.
but how did you meet them?
Well, I didn't meet them in person. I haven't been in Burma in a few years, so I haven't met them in person. My research was very through conversations online with them and conversations with the directors of the documentaries online. So I haven't been to Burma in a few years, so my research wasn't in the
They're
field.
amazing. I've worked a bit with them. They're amazing.
Yeah. And I think they are definitely getting more exposure internationally more than nationally now.
This is amazing for them.
And I think you don't see it in this documentary, but the rebel riot started food not bombs in Burma, which is this kind of homelessness is like a major issue in Burma, especially in the last few years with like property development and things like that. And they kind of take care of food not bombs, which is just giving out food to homeless people in Burma, which is pretty cool.
It was really great, great film, really enjoyed it, and like how similar they are to the sort of Black Flag they seem really inspired by, and that whole kind of straight edge scene and like the Buddhism of that, I really enjoyed that part of it. But the risks of censorship, sorry to be very naive, but what are the risks of having free speech there currently?
It's, if you think of like, I don't know,
I've got a guitar from Myanmar, but like I
Okay.
did go over there. I have been over the border, but I've never got in.
I think the major, like for them personally, things like, I don't know, if they organize gigs or things like that, the major issues are like imprisonment. It's
What, for speaking against the state? Is that
for speaking or even just like for you can't really organize events without approval, but they will never approve a punk concert. So everything that they have to do is kind of against the law. If any event that they do is usually against the law, because they can't ask for approval because they wouldn't have it approved, because of the lyrics that they mostly because of the lyrics. So there was this one instance where they were doing this kind of like underground gig. It was like a punk festival in this unused restaurant. And the crowd got quite big and they got quite loud, and the restaurant owner, who was fine all the way up till now, kind of like freaked out seeing how loud they were being and kind of kicked everyone out, and it was like a bit of like, and then the police came. So I think there's there's a lot of like self-censorship, and there's very kind of like inner struggle of how to speak out their mind while still not risk imprisonment.
More questions?
I was just wondering, where were all the women?
So I think it's in the punk scene in Burma, it's
The women are their
major.
girlfriends.
Yeah.
The women are really cool behind them.
But why weren't they shot at
Well,
all
because they
then?
don't want to sing. You sing if you want to sing. You know, it's not a girl. It's not a woman issue.
But in the video, there wasn't any
Okay.
women.
There is like one only female punk artist that I know of, and she wasn't really well perceived. So I think there is a bit of like an issue of lack of women in the punk scene, I'd say, in Burma. And I think if you look at the overall, I don't know, music industry in general in Burma, there's like a hip hop duo of women who fight against the system, and then there's this one punk woman. But I think it's kind of, I mean, there is a lack of female presence in the punk scene, but I'd say also in the Western punk scene there is also a bit of a lack of female presence. So that's, I think, more of an issue of like the punk scene in general more than like specifically the Burmese one.
So So when the director, Andreas, was, because he's German, isn't he?
Mhm.
When he was making the film, because you mentioned censorship, I mean, I'm guessing he didn't ask for permission because they wouldn't have given it to him. So was
Yeah.
that very much shot in a kind of guerrilla style without the authorities knowing? And
Yeah, none of the authorities knew. I think he mentioned how it was, you can see that it was, when like Obama visited Burma, so there was a lot of press around, so I think that kind of helped him be under the shadow, and like, people not paying too much attention at him filming everything, because it was quite a big moment of like, Obama visiting, so lots of,
And has the film been shown in Burma anywhere at all? Or?
Not that I know.
No.
I'm pretty sure it hasn't. No, not that I know. I think, as I've said, the punk scene is gaining way more attention internationally than it is nationally. So I think it is still very much a Yangon-based scene.
Yeah.
So you see them, going out to the countryside, but I'm pretty sure the scene is, pretty much just concentrated in the city, and it's still quite small.
So I mean, you mentioned Yangon. There was a film, wasn't there, called Yangon Calling, that came out. Tell us a bit about that film for some of the people that might not have seen it.
Yeah, so it still looks at punks in Burma. Instead of following one specific guy, it kind of looks at a diverse range of people, and I think it's quite interesting. In Yangon Calling, you see quite a big generational difference compared to this one. So you see punks from like old generations, and kind of like Chocho's straight edge attitude isn't necessarily reflecting the older generations who are still more involved in like drugs and alcohol abuse. And I think also the older generation is less kind of like keen to actually provide change. So they're very much like against authorities and very much against religion, but they are less likely to act. Whereas Chocho is like super involved in fighting the system. And then so Yangon Calling looks at this one woman punk artist, and it looks at a few different punk bands. So it looks at the punk bands that are becoming a bit more commercial now, and things like that. And there are a lot of similarities between the two films. I think this one looks more at the Buddhism aspect, and also issues of Islamophobia in Burma, and how the punk scene is kind of like revolving around that.
I mean, over in Burma, tell us a bit about how the class structure works there. I mean, is it similar to like a Western class system where you'd have a working class, a middle class, an upper class, or is it different?
Well, I'd say it's very much like there is very much like an upper class, and there's very much like a working class. I don't think middle class really exists. So I think if you look at like the Burmese punks, I'd say all the generations tend to come from like upper class, and they kind of rejected their lifestyle and kind of fought against the authority. Whereas the newer generation, so for instance the punks you see here, tend to come more from like working class backgrounds.
Any more questions? Yeah.
The film focuses on a small group of people, but what's the scale of the punk scene in Burma? How many bands? How much of a crowd do the shows?
So I, as far as I know, there's about, I don't know, maybe like 6-7 bands in Yangon, and there is, it's like if you look at like, I don't know, people that have attended punk festival and things like that in Yangon, there's maybe like 100 usually, something like that. So it's still fairly small, but it is becoming bigger and bigger compared to when it was when it just started. I think a cool thing is that the people that were the first punks in the 90s are still like punks now, and are kind of like interacting with the new generations, and I think that's a cool thing of the scene.
I mean, do any sort of Western bands get permission to play gigs there, or is it just a complete?
Not really. I know that I'm not in Burma. I know that there are a few bands that have played in like Indonesia, and that was already quite a big struggle. So I think there was quite a big police check and things like that when that happened, but not in Burma. And there hasn't been like any major punk bands that have played there.
So during your research, I mean, you had contact with Andreas, the director, didn't you? So I mean, did you get to interview him and ask him a bit about his motivations for making the film?
So we kind of had like a video call, and he started as kind of like a portrait photographer, and then was really interested in the punk scene and kind of looked at it a bit more. I think yeah, his interest lied in the fact that he wanted to show the scene that kind of came to be way later than in the West, but it's very much alive now. And especially I feel like now in the, I don't know, it's quite interesting in that it's following Burma's change for democracy and Burma's fight for democracy. And so it is, Burma, like, there's an idea that in the latest year Burma is, evolving very much. And I think it's quite interesting how the punk scene shows how there's still a lot of issues. How just because it is achieving democracy doesn't necessarily mean that people are actually free. I think, that was part of his interest, I'd say.
So I mean, obviously, talking about some of the sort of subcultures, there's punk. Are there other scenes coming to prominence, like electronic or anything like that?
There's quite a large, hip hop scene and rap scene, and they're also quite political and quite vocal about issues in Burma, and there's I think those are like the two biggest subcultures, like the punk scene, and then you've got hip hop scene.
Okay. Any more questions? No? Okay, well, round of applause for John and